What's up, guys? Thank God it's Monday. Even though it's not Monday, it's Wednesday. But thank you, E the Hip Hop Preacher, for this awesome shirt. Thank you for always shifting my paradigms. I wanted to give you guys a quick little understanding of what mobility is versus flexibility. They're two entirely different things. And I see this a lot with clients, like, oh, I'm just stretching. No, you're definitely not stretching. Okay, so let me talk to you about what stretching means. Let me turn on that music real quick. I'm gonna make this all unscripted. Unscripted off the bat. I've been listening to these instrumental hip hop songs for workouts, and I like it way better because the words sometimes kind of interfere with my thought processes. So I get the words out, listen to some heavy bass beats, and they help me a lot more throughout my workouts. But anyway, side note, let's go into what mobility is versus flexibility. Okay, so flexibility, what is flexibility? Flexibility, hopefully you can see this on the board. Flexibility is just the capacity to take a muscle, your muscle tissue, and just stretch it to some end range, right? So this is the equivalent of just like putting my hand down a door and just stretching my pecs and getting it to stretch for a typical amount of time or a standard amount of time, 30 seconds or a minute, and just kind of taking it and stretching it out. That's what a flexibility is. How well you can take a tissue and elongate it, okay? Mobility is the ability to create stability, okay? That's like good. Stability about your joints, okay? It's the capacity for your body to create stability about your joints. And the way you create stability is by engaging certain muscle groups while turning off others. So it's an active process. You apply a neural or a nervous system drive to get stability about the joint. So you can be in a squat, you can be super bendy, but you have no stability, meaning you can't really hold it with full elongated posture, core is strong and tight, your Kegels on, your glutes are turned on, your hammies are turned on. You won't be able to hold that very long because you haven't been able to train that, or you haven't really been training that. You've just been training the muscle to stretch for a certain end range. That's all you're doing, okay? So mobility is very, very different. It's entirely different. And the way you train, the training implications for both are extremely different, okay? So one might say, oh, it's the same thing, but it's not. For example, if I take my hip, okay, and I wanted to put it into more external rotation, yes, you could technically stretch out all the muscles that happen to be tight. So for most of us that are sitting all day, our inner groin, our adductors, our hip flexors are all going to be overly tight, hypertonic, or flexed, okay? And if they're hypertonic and we stretch those out, sure, we'll get some more range of motion. But will we get stability and motor control in external rotation? Probably not, because we haven't really trained it unless you apply a neural drive to your glutes. That means if you're really trying to open up your adductors, you should also throw in a glute squeeze. You should be squeezing your butt as hard as possible to reciprocally inhibit the adductors and in turn engage your glutes, which have what function? They externally rotate the hip. That's exactly what you want for a squat, okay? And the same kind of concept can be applied for shoulder work, right? So you know, with most of us, we are so used to doing a lot of this kyphotic posture, so we're not very good with shoulder flexion, probably not good with shoulder external rotation, probably terrible at those two positions. So we have to understand with the shoulders, we need to make it active as well. If we're going to flexion and we want to create more external rotation, we need to apply a neural drive, okay? And more importantly, with the shoulder blade has to dictate how the shoulder is moving, or how the humerus is moving. If the blade is not moving, okay, and it's stuck and it's tied down, now this is where you're more prone to shoulder rotator cuff injuries or tears or things of that sort. Your blade has to move with your shoulder. So important, okay? So again, when you're thinking about opening up, it's not just sitting there and hoping for the best and stretching to some end range. I see this a lot in yoga too. People just get into these yoga positions that they're not ready for. Their body is not trained to be in that position. It can't create stability because we're just yanking into position. People get hurt because there's no stability applied whenever they're doing their movements. But if you make your yoga movements active, you're engaging your abs, you're actively reaching your arm for the sky whenever you're doing your upward movements or warrior poses, You're squeezing your butt whenever you're standing on one leg. You're really engaging from your arch all the way up. You bet you're gonna have a lot more stability. You bet you're gonna get stronger while you do your yoga. And then when you go into the weight room, you're gonna be way better off for doing so, okay? The same thing applies with weights. The same thing applies to gymnastics. It applies all across the board, okay? Apply an isometric, static, engaged contraction with your muscles in order for you to actually go through and create the right kind of movement pattern you want. An isometric contraction is shown to give you about 10 to 15 degrees more range of motion rather than just stretching to some end range. Okay, so this is very powerful stuff. In the next upcoming videos, I'll show you a few things. I'll have a mobility series for you guys. One is just dynamic, where you can make it a dynamic movement. One's an active isometric movement, and one involves bands. The last one involves soft tissue work. So hopefully this was resourceful for you. Until next video, guys, peace!